so for folks that aren't as familiar with healthcare, talk to us a little bit about what the device does specifically if we were a patient.
Sure. So this is first indication here specific to diabetic retinopathy. I'm not a clinician. I have no clinical background, so I'm going to explain it in lay people's terms here for everybody, which is the direction you're giving me. So every diabetic patient in the U.S. should have this test done per standard of care in government and agency regulated metrics, quality metrics here. The reason for that is the 30 million patients in the U.S. with diabetes, 80% of them roughly will start to develop diabetic retinopathy, which is a vision impairing and also vision taking progressive disease. So if you think about anyone in your family that might have diabetes or a larger extended friend group, this is something they need to have to make sure that they can still see as they progress into their later years. It's very important because if you think about it from the actual person with diabetes perspective, if you look at surveys you'll do of them, they actually fear losing their vision more than losing their foot to amputation here. So this is very scary in terms of the lifelong impact it can have. One last comment on the disease state and why this is so important is 15% of the patients that should have this test done annually have it. And if you were to get the test annually and you catch it early, it's a completely preventable problem. But again, the bottleneck here in healthcare, for those that are maybe more just general business kind of minds, is the bottleneck is there are not enough physicians to test everybody and do the rest of the eye care related care the rest of us need. And if you look at just kind of incentives, doing this test reimburses at a very low rate compared to anything else the physician could be spending their time on. So we have this really interesting scenario where we know patients need this. It's incredibly important to them. And today, you have what's called a fundus image captured of your eye through a particular sensor. It's just a big camera that sits on the table. There's some handheld versions of it as well. But this image is then either beamed remotely or the physician reads it live. Similar, think of an X-ray, right? It's very, very similar to that. Most people are familiar with that. It's an image to the back of your retina. I see you have a hemorrhage there. This implies that you're starting to lose your vision. Let's take an intervention. Let's prescribe you a medication. Let's do an injection to stop you from heading down this path of going blind. So what IDx does is it essentially solves for this bottleneck where we have more people than we have providers able to do the care by essentially inserting a computer algorithm into the hardware to give you an instantaneous diagnostic. So it's really removing the physician from having to be involved in the workflow.